I'm Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Maggie Thompson is presenting the work titled The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch, written by J.J. Hurtak. Maggie Thompson is not validating nor supporting Hurtak's views, epiphanies, visions, beliefs, or words. Maggie Thompson is simply presenting the work as written and is attempting to translate this extraordinarily esoteric work to a common vernacular and understanding. Further, Maggie Thompson understands this work to be solely concerning the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and while Hurtak views his work to be the key or keys to uniting all the world's people under one religion, namely Abrahamic, Maggie Thompson does not support this premise whole cloth. However, this work does give depth and insight into the connection of physics, cosmology, biology, and spirituality, which, for the seeker of divine truth, can be invaluable for the discovery of one's place in the universe, and that may be under the hierarchy of Yahweh, the Ancient of Days, or a hierarchy that exists above or beside such deities, or none altogether. Maggie Thompson implores all seekers of knowledge to, letter A, not accept what a person of authority tells you without validation. This includes looking at critiques and the opposing views with an open mind. Letter B, accept that religion, as well as science and politics, is presented as a means of indoctrination and is always presented with the biases of the overall field or system, the authors of texts, and the presenter, whose goals are to convince you of the, quote, truth, end quote, of their premise or premises. Letter C. It is possible to take insight, truths, and information from a biased work. Any body of work for the purpose of deeper meaning and knowledge must be carefully excavated and carved to glean wisdom. And letter D. No work or bodies of work that is believed by a large group or populace of people should be dismissed out of hand simply because you do not believe it. We live in a diverse time where religious belief takes center stage in the governing of the collected masses. To truly understand the barriers and gateways to your personal success and fulfillment, you must accept that believers of any kind can and will do what is necessary to meet their goals. Whew. All right, we made it through all of that. So we're here to talk about the Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch. We are on key 3-0-5, which is pages 385 to 392. So it says, the keys to future luminaries are the glories of, quote, the throne of the creative mind, end quote, which has a measure for all measures. Quote, Koreish, 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 Adonai Sebaoth. End quote. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. So before we get into it, let me say hi to some folks. Adric is here first. He says it's on. Auntie is second with the triple P sign. My favorite auntie. Red Pill Sleeper Cell is here. What's up? Chef Mike is here. He says, hey, 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 happy hump day. Adric has to come in with the hashtag Pivot Point Wednesday and Humpty Hump Day. You know what? Maybe the only the only disclaimer I need in the beginning is, all right, stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. Was that not the whitest thing you've ever heard? But that's what it made me think of. And Adrian is here and says, let's go. All right, so let's get started. We're going to use multiple concepts to make her talks excessively and way too much esoteric work into something that is not soteric. I will be critiquing his premises as well as offering some guidance, because we sort of discovered in this channel that this book is about Christian dispensationalism mixed with Jewish mysticism. So we can kind of dissect the book to see what maybe the global powers are up to on a worldwide scale, in their religious front. The full reading is available on this channel. You can listen to it before, after, or not at all, because I am going to read some of the highlights. So for those of you watching from the cloud, this is the best live tribe on YouTube. Hey, Trick. He said Maggie's got bars. Mic drop. But Chef Mike agrees that was the whitest thing he's ever heard. So maybe that's the only disclaimer I need. Anyway, this is the best live tribe on YouTube, so feel free to say hello. You will be welcomed as long as you're appropriate, and shout out to the replay gang. So let's get started with the highlights. All right. Within the infinite glories of the Father's throne, there is a song celestial, which is used in all the higher heavens to exalt the Father. It is the vibration of the Holy Spirit, which empowers all living intelligence of God, providing them with a form of salvation. This is the salutation of the higher brotherhoods who work collectively as the host energies of Yahweh. The salutation is a witness to all in the lower heavens that the hosts of Yahweh work collectively as an army of light, serving the heavenly bodies and those worlds which will be raised up in incorruption. So, all right, here we go. Army of light. We're seeing a lot of this lately, right? The violence for God thing. Sorry, my glasses are crooked. So why are these people always so horny for violence? Like always violence, and then they project that onto other people. At Charlie Kirk's funeral, it was nothing but threatening violence to some shadowy other Dem libtard. I don't know whom, but constant. It was a memorial service, and all they wanted to do was threaten people. So they take peace-loving Jesus, right, and use his movement as an excuse to bat people around. So let's look at what their Bible says. Mark 13, 5-6, and then 21-23. Jesus said to them, "Watch out that no one deceives you." And I've used this quote before. "Many will come in my name, claiming I am he, and will deceive many. At that time, if anyone says to you, 'Look, here is the Messiah,' or 'Look, there he is,' do not believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. So be on your guard. I have told you everything ahead of time." Hi, AB Media. Thanks for being here. Yeah, Adrian, live by the sword. I'm more of talk out the side of your neck. Anyway, so be on your guard. I have told you everything ahead of time, right? So this includes a president who brags on all his miraculous yet false accomplishments, right? Trump did not end 7 wars. Trump is not the Messiah, no matter how many paintings and images you make of him on the cross. And for that matter, neither is Charlie Kirk. There's literally a video online saying Charlie Kirk died for our sins. Something to watch for about this particular case and others is this. Revelation 13, 1-3. "And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and his great authority. Now, didn't they at Charlie Kirk's funeral say that we've awakened the dragon, not awakened, awakened the dragon, and now we're going to get it, right? So to continue on. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So people have been saying for a long time that the beast is Western power. So I'll lay something out for you, and then you can make your own decisions, okay? What else would we use a theology degree for, right? Puff the magic dragon, Adric says. Yeah, and damn, that's an ugly-ass beast, Adrian says. I don't disagree, but it actually doesn't sound as bad as the descriptions of the angels. The descriptions of angels sound scary as hell. Okay, so dragon. Dragon is the archon of deception. That's the archetype. Okay, and we talk about archetypes, and we've done that many times. So from ancient history all the way forward, the dragon is the archon of deception, the deceiver, aka Satan, right? That's how they describe Satan. He is the deception. He is the deceiver, right? So aka Satan. This archon, so archon meaning almost like a god that's been that forever. So this archon is a primal intelligence of control. So an archon has been here since the beginning, right? He is the primal intelligence of control, pride, and illusion. So he operates through material, desire, fear, and hierarchy. That's the description of the archon of the dragon, okay? Now, the 3 beasts in one body, leopard, bear, and lion, are the Abrahamic religions, okay? Leopard, bear, and lion. The leopard, Islam, right? Swift expansion, spots are the diverse caliphates, enforces law as political faith. That is the leopard. The bear is Christianity, strength, endurance, heavy, territorial, devours through mission and empire, right? Cloaked conquest and salvation, the bear. Who chose the bear, right? And the lion, right? Judaism. And Judaism uses the lion as a descriptor many times, but the lion is the mouth of authority through the Christian law. Okay, puppeting, right? Finance, media shapes the covenants and the narratives. To be clear, I'm talking about the organized religions, the institutions, not the people per se. Okay, not the regular everyday person who's just trying to be a good person and this is their faith and they're just trying to make do. Okay, man, bear, pig. Yes, yes, just like man, bear, pig, except it's a dragon, leopard, bear, lion. Anyway, so we're talking about those who operate the institutions, right? Are part of the beast, and the beast is given its power by the dragon. And they just said that the dragon is awakened, and now they're going to go about being very violent to people. They've even talked about killing people, putting people to death, stoning people. Okay, so the 10 horn with the 10 crowns are the 10 governances. Okay, again, I'm using my theology degree here, and I just want to be very clear. People can decide whatever they want to decide, but the 10 horns with the 10 crowns are the 10 governances of the West: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Belgium, Canada, Australia. The 10 horns are the 10 crowns, right? The 10 governances of the West. Okay. And this is the theory that people talk about that the beast is the West? So they answer to the 7 thrones. Okay. The 7 thrones are the Anglo-Axis, the Franco-German Neanderthal core. That's number 2. Number 3 is the Vatican and the religious governance. By the way, if you think your Christian church does not answer to the Vatican, you haven't looked. They all are attached to the Vatican. And all the leaders of all the different denominations always visit the Pope, and what do? They kiss his hands and they kiss his toes. So anyway, number 4, the financial corporate cartel like central bank and BIS, those, right? 5 is the military industrial command, like the NATO framework. Number 6 is the technocratic digital directorate, so the big tech, the technates, right? And number 7 is the media narrative complex, the global information control. So those are all institutions, just like the Abrahamic religions. If it is the three parts of the beast, it's the institutions, right? Because we're talking about the beast is the West. That's the theory, okay? So this produces a monolithic world order, these institutions working together in this way. Just like all of these things create one beast, okay? It produces a monolithic world order, global control, okay? It blends faith, finance, and force. That's what it does. Those are the arms that they beat you with, the faith, finance, and force. This is how they beat you up, okay? It is towards a new world order and global control. Maybe I'm completely off base though, right? I don't know. It is something to think about. Just, because it fits. So let's keep reading highlights. All right. Therefore, the Koreyish, Koreyish, Koreyish Adonai Sebaoth is the central measure for the 10 octaves contained within the electromagnetic lines of force, as well as additional scales of color resonance emanating 80 octaves above and 80 octaves below our place in the electromagnetic spectrum. Colors and sounds mixing together. Okay. The cosmic sound and its relationship to the color spectrum divides these additional octaves of sound beyond the normal octave range. And just as every subatomic particle has its own unique color vibration, these color vibrations can be separated so as to release new musical tones. So you can use colors to make tones. You can use tones to make colors. Okay, because it's all vibration. Got it. These octaves are activated by the Hebrew divine letters, which are in turn activated by their own grid, which is called into being by Adonai Sebaoth. Okay, so you use the Hebrew words. You start with Adonai Sebaoth, and then you can play around with the tones and the colors. So these letters are thought forms creating an eternal link between the different worlds of time. Okay, so have you heard of Sergei Petukov, okay, and his matrix genetics and genetic octaves, okay, or like yin-yang algebra? Because this sounds like that to me. And I don't know if you guys have heard of it. So in 2008, Petukov published Matrix Genetics Part 2, the octave algebra with 2 quasi-real units, the genetic octave yin-yang algebra. That's a big title, right? So he lays out, hi, Kevin Thompson, thanks for being here. He lays out an 8x8 geomatrix, okay, of 64 codons. So imagine this in your head. It's a grid, right? It's an 8x8 geomatrix of 64 codons and maps it to an 8-dimensional octave of algebra. So you can almost imagine it like a conch shell. So if you're looking down from the top, it's this grid, but if you pull it up, right, you have this 8-dimensional octave of algebra, like sound. So his subsequent writings continued tying genetic codes, because then it looks like DNA, when you do that. Okay. So his subsequent writings tied genetic code matrices, right? Um, and had the algebraic octave structures encoded into the genetics. Like you could see tonal octaves in the same mapping. So this map that he did, you could overlay it with genetics and it did the same thing. Okay. So what he did was he tried to figure out or to prove that the genetic code, the DNA, follows a mathematical pattern that is just like music. Adric says, I heard of the yin yang twins. I'm heading to the back of the class. So DNA uses 4 letters. So when we map DNA, it uses 4 letters, ACGT. Okay. The letters combine into 3-letter words when you map it. And that's what the codons are. Okay. So it makes 64 total combinations. So 64 codons when he maps it. Okay. This is why you can use the same mapping for both things. So 64 is a power of 2, right? And fits neatly into octaves because music doubles frequency every octave. Now, what you will see with Hertog's thing, this right here, is this whole mathematic power of 2s. He's just taking everything to the power of 2, right? But he's using like 22 to the second power, but everything is to the power of 2, okay? So Petkov thought that genetic code is built like octaves in music, where patterns repeat at higher or lower levels, like a high C, a middle C, a low C, right? B, E, A, D, G, C, F. Those are the notes, okay? So it's charting the same thing. So he made charts called geno matrices. Oh, wait, Kevin says, but that would be the case for all creation, not just human DNA. Well, he applied it to human DNA. But I see what you're saying. Like anything that has DNA, right? It should do something. And now I'm going to have to side note. And we'll get back to the genome matrices, okay? Because there are machines that you can buy. They have 2 little clips, almost like battery clips, and a speaker. And you can clip it onto things and it will play the vibration of what it is hooked to in a range that a human can hear it. So, what does my glass sound like? What does the desk sound like? And when you attach these, somebody figured out, I don't know who it was, but now I watch their videos all the time. They figured out if you hooked these 2, they're little pincers with wires that go into the speaker. If you hook them to plants, it actually plays music. And different plants play different tunes. And even mushrooms play music. Trees play music. It's very interesting. And they're all, depending on what type it is, they all play different music. Isn't that amazing? So when you say not just human DNA, it makes me think, oh, plants put off vibrational music. So isn't that interesting? Okay, so side note squirrel. He made charts called geno matrices that show how the codons can be arranged in the 8x8 grids, right? He could split the grid into 2 sides that balance each other. So we're splitting the 8x8 grid into 2 sides, right? The yin yang bookend, right? But I should do this. Bookend, okay? So we have the yin and the yang. He could then compare the mathematical harmony in DNA. Remember, you've got 2 things spinning, right? To the harmonics in music or even color. So music and color, again, are just different vibrations, right? We have vibrations that go into our eyes and our brain perceives that as colors, shapes, movement, all kinds of things. We have vibrations that go into our ears and our brain perceives that as different sounds, okay? But our eyes and our ears are just vibrational satellites. That's all they really are. Hi, Compassionate and Callous. Thanks for being here. So that's what it reminds me of. Maybe he's kind of stealing his theory and making it sound all religious-y. I don't know. All right, so let's keep going. At this time, through the great dispensation that God had, wait a minute, dispensation. Did we just prove our theory that he's a dispensationalist? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he just used the word. It's just the word. It's just the word. At this time, through the great dispensation that God has promised at the end of this time period. Now, that's dispensationalism. The Koresh, Adonai, Sabaoth will become the key to the transformation of man. For through God's dispensation, the Christ over self body will be quickened into direct work with the physical body. So, bingo, we got it. We got the dispensationalism. So, it's a theological system that organizes Bible history into distinct ages or dispensations. Okay. And then during which those dispensations, so different epochs, right, are the dispensations, God administers his purpose for humanity. So consistent, literal interpretation of the Bible is key. These people are Biblists. So if you go to start talking to them about how King James made 30,000 changes to the Bible, no. Or that it was translated from Greek and Hebrew, so it's already changed. No. They say the English version and the version they have at their house is the word of God. Literal. Okay. So they're very literal, particularly that God has two distinct peoples, Israel and the church, which they say the church is Christians. So God, the God, to them, the God, the only God, Yahweh, has two distinct peoples, Israel and the church, Christians, okay? And they expect the literal fulfillment of Old Testament prophecies for Israel in a future 1,000-year reign of Christ, okay? So they say, yes, Jesus was the Messiah for the Christians, and because English is the right dispensation for the white Christians, right? This is what they're believing. And for the Jews, their prophecy will be fulfilled in a future 1,000-year reign of Christ. It's still Christ, it's still Jesus, right? But Jesus came to save them first and are going to come to save the Jews second. Okay. Now, okay, Kevin says, I guess it should show itself in three ways: sight, sound, and vibration, the three dimensions, the material realm. Love that. I love that that's what you applied it to, right? Because vibration is matter. Because they talk about the 3D has to do with matter, right? And that you can see it this way, and this way, right? So that there's three planes, X, Y, Z. So that's why they say it's three-dimensional. But actually, the three dimensions can be broken down literally all the way down to vibration. So isn't that's interesting, right? Everything that we experience, be it material or be it space-time, can be broken down to a vibration at its very base level. Okay, so now is not yet is. I got that, Vincent. Thanks for being here. So dispensationalists advocate for certain policies, government, politics, right? There's no difference, including no peace deals. Dispensationalists want no peace deals whatsoever because they believe Israel must occupy certain lands before Jesus will come. And the Jews in Israel believe that the entire world has to hate them to make God come to their aid. So they sort of have to force other people to hate them so that God will return. and come to their aid against the entire world. And the dispensationalist Christians want all that to happen. Okay. So they are funding a third temple in Jerusalem because it's part of the prophecy. Okay. They see and they support conflict in the Middle East as birth pains. That's what they call them, birth pains, because we're giving birth to the Messiah. Okay. So these birth pains and this conflict in the Middle East lead to Armageddon, which I haven't really talked about Armageddon. We've talked about the rapture a little bit. We've talked about the apocalypse quite a bit. I bring up Revelations, but I haven't really talked about Armageddon. So, but this is dispensationalist. So it leads to Armageddon. Okay. So as an example, let's take the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025. Okay. Public statements from the Heritage Foundation. These are public statements, all right? The statements say that the United States is a Christian nation whose laws should mirror biblical morality as they define it, right? Because they also operate on white moral superiority and supremacy, okay? But that it's a Christian nation whose laws should mirror biblical morality. Another side note, which means no divorce, no cheating on your wife, no, but they don't care. Not those, right? No greed, lust, envy, but they don't want to do those either, right? They want to hoard all the money and cheat on their wives and get fat cat, it's however they define it. Okay. So they portray the US as divinely mandated defender of biblical order. This is how they view it. And this book that we're reading now from her talk, I showed you a map where he said all this is going to happen in the dove, and the dove is across North America, centering in the United States. So another thing to show he's a dispensationalist. Adrian says death cult. And if you didn't watch my show last Sunday about this being a death cult, it's a death cult. Go back and watch it. You will see what I'm talking about. So they share, I'm talking about the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, these dispensationalists. They share that culture wars against women's rights, LGBT populations, abortion, secular education, all of those wars are prerequisites for the national renewal. Okay. Not to mention the rampant racism, right? Because again, God has two people, Israel, who they view as these European Jewish people who are Zionists in Israel. That's who they view them as. And Christians who only speak English and formed the United States. So read white. Okay. So the rampant racism has got to start too. That's why we see, hey, maybe we should get rid of, we should look at these miscegenation laws. And we should figure out, who really can be married. And, that's why they do all that. So they view Israel as a covenantal duty. They have to do that. So they promote Israel first in all their policies for this very reason. There is no distinction between politics and their religion. Their religion is their politics. Their politics is their religion. There is no distinction for these folks. Okay. Compassionate said full of shit. Yeah, don't disagree. Kevin says, do you know the place that Jacob changed his name to Israel was called Peniel and not Israel? And my thinking was, somebody brought this up, and so don't take my word for it, but that he was in Palestine at the time. So Jacob was in Palestine or was a Palestinian. Don't take my word for it, but there's something else that goes along with that as well. So leaders, right, have spoken of the government, we're talking Heritage Foundation, okay, as a means to an end, a means to prepare the nations. Okay. That's what the United States government is for. It's a means to prepare the nations, right? essentially for Christ's kingdom on earth, which, obviously for them, Jesus is going to come back and want to live in the United States, which makes, it just makes me laugh. Supremacy culture. Okay. All right. So their policies they want to move the US toward a de facto establishment of Christianity in civic life for the purpose of forcing the Messiah to come. So here we have Israel, who is forcing they're being saved by God, forcing God to come back by making the entire world hate them, because that's part of their prophecy. Okay. Again, I'm talking institutions, people. And the United States dispensationalists, who are all in the government now, please tell me you don't believe differently, because the Heritage Foundation is all throughout the government. They are pulling strings. Okay. And they will tell you they're with the Heritage Foundation. They will tell you they helped write Project 2025. Like, it's not a secret. I'm not saying anything that everybody doesn't admit to and know. Okay. They're trying to force Jesus to have to return. What kind of belief system is this? Kevin says Jesus comes back in New Jerusalem. Well, here's the thing. They will tell you New Jerusalem is in the United States. Her talk in this book labels New Jerusalem in the United States. Because, Jesus wants to live in Oklahoma. So, does it all make any sense? Not necessarily what is happening, but why it's happening. Why the powers that be are doing the things that they're doing, because they're trying to force God's hand. They are trying to control God. And that's what they believe, that they can force Jesus to come to the United States and have his 1,000-year reign in the United States with all his white, shiny, happy Christians, right? And Jesus can also save Israel against the whole rest of the world, so that the only people left are the Israeli Zionist Jews and the American Christians, and they get to inherit the entire world, the entire earth. These are their prophecies. And unfortunately, they are making public policies. And unfortunately, these people now have access to nuke codes. But this is why we are where we are now. Chef Mike says Jesus needs a Walmart. And if they actually read the Bible, Jesus would be at Walmart just literally handing out stuff for everybody, right? He would be like, why are we paying? I don't understand. Kevin says, yes, that's what you're implying. Yeah. Okay. So number 47. We're still reading highlights. Okay. The pattern of 666 with an asterisk above it. The pattern of 666 is used to identify you with respect to the Earth's vibration. The pattern of 999 indicates that you have picked up a Merkaba vibration and that you are receptive to whatever instruction is at hand. And the pattern of 121212 is the vibration of consciousness transportation. Now, if he would have said 369, I could have dealt with that, because Tesla, you know what I mean? Like, I would have rocked with that. But he starts with the pattern of 666 is used to identify you. Okay. But there's an asterisk. Okay. What does the asterisk say? It says, see glossary, summer, oof, summer. All right. Let's find it. Let's go to the glossary. Summer. Let me find it. Summer, wolf, summer. That middle word is W-U-F, woof. Okay, Sommer, woof, Sommer. Paradigms of the infamous 666 as a force of limitation and force limiting freedom of the spirit. The permutations of fallen mind energy or negation, which controls the realities of spiritual evolution in the lower creation. With prayer, the gematria of 999 reverses 666. And it literally references Revelations 13:18 in the glossary, in that 666 has to do with low vibration, and that the 999 reverses 666, and that it's a vibration, although it is not. If you try to vibrate something at 666, it's not a thing. Okay, so Revelations 13:18, what does it actually say? Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, that's what 13:18 says. Okay, so now I want to see what Compassionate says. He says, Maggie, be honest. Did you expect his expensive ass book to be so full of shit? You know what? I'm always hopeful. I'm always a positive person, and I had heard some great things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's spitting facts and blah, blah, blah. But now I didn't pay for this book. It was a gift. But even if I had paid for it, it is worth every penny. Because think about how we get to tear apart his BS, how we get to tear apart his arguments, how it gives us insight. Like, look at all this stuff we just talked about dispensationalism. Like, every week we get to tear it up, and we get to learn so much and deep dive into stuff. And so it is worth every penny. I would guard this book with everything that I have. It means so much, not just because of the person who gave it to me. Shout out to Adrian Hicks. But because of just all the work we've been able to do. So, did I expect this expensive ass book to be so full of shit? No. Am I upset about it? Not in the slightest. I think it's amazing. Kevin says, we receive instructions through our pineal gland. That's why I mentioned that Jacob called the land pineal. Oh, okay. Yes. And I've talked about the pineal gland. Yeah. On this show. And there's even a shorter video. I don't know that it's a short that on my channel, hopefully you can find it, that talks about ways to decalcify your pineal gland. So hopefully you can find it. But it's a shorter video because it was just an end bonus of a longer video, but I clipped it off, and so it's standalone. Okay. Compassion says, LOL, no, I get it. And we appreciate you sharing for real. Thank you, Compassionate. Okay. So that was Revelations 13:18, right? Here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So Hertuck says the gematria of 999 reverses 666, and he gives that quote from Revelations as proof. Did I miss something? Did you guys hear anything about 999 reverses the vibration of 666? Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So this quote, this biblical quote that he gave as proof for this Summer Wolf Summer, this 999 reverses 666, is, as Compassionate would say, it's bullshit. Excuse my language. I've been cursing a lot tonight. I'm really sorry. Vincent says, if a person knows something, do they need to believe? I from an esoteric level, actually from a philosophy level, I don't know that we 100% know anything, because even what we think we know can be proven wrong. All we know is what Descartes said. I think, therefore I am. So only you know if you exist. Only I know if I exist. I don't know anything else. Adrian tips his hat. Ah, yeah, now he's just making shit up at this point. Yes, compassionate, and he does it all the time. He changes the meanings of words, he makes stuff up, but he tries to sound esoteric, he tries to sound like he really knows what he's talking about, and it's just word salad, you know? Kevin says that's nonsense. Yeah, yeah. So, for anyone as far as her talk is concerned, for anyone who's not a white Christian nationalist dispensationalist, the world is a very scary place, right? Because they're going to come and get us. I guess we should be scared, a little bit, at least wary, watchful. We stay prepared, if you know what I'm saying. I stay prepared. Hopefully, y'all are staying prepared. Um, because they're trying to make this stuff happen. And they've been trying to the Heritage Foundation and all these different things has been going for like what 50 years they've been working, and they made it all the way up to Project 2025, and now they're making Project 2025 happen. Like, oof, might be. Thank you, Adric. Oh, for the swear jar. I should be I need to put several dollars in the swear jar. I think I owe like $4 or $5 at this point. So thank you for helping me with the swear jar. Swear jar. I appreciate you so much. Compassionate said he was counting on overloading the reader with so much information that you just get confused and believe the messiness. The caca. And I think so. He's one of those people that it's sort of like he has a command over big words and language and academia, that he can sound like he knows what he's talking about, which just does nothing that other than to indoctrinate you or brainwash whoever's reading it into following his plan to give up their body and soul, which, if in case you missed it, in case anybody missed it, a couple keys ago, there were multiple keys in a row up until a couple keys ago, where he's talking about, to be a true believer, to do these true things, you have to give up your body so that another entity can come into your body, and you need to give up your soul so that they can work through your body. Sounds creepy. Sounds like demonic possession, does it not? It totally does. Kevin says the serpent in the Garden of Eden used a psyop to trick Eve. I did a show on that and who I think the serpent actually is, because the serpent, the snake, okay, is the archon of wisdom. Okay. So this is why, like, you have the caduceus, like, the logo for like medical things is the stick with the two snakes, right? That's about wisdom, healing, whatever. The stick is always been representative of Asherah, who was El's wife, that and Yahweh was their son. Then when Yahweh's people did the whole great takeover, Yahweh married Asherah, and then Yahweh killed Asherah. So the snake has always meant wisdom. Asherah always meant wisdom. All of the descriptions of the Holy Spirit are the exact same descriptions of Asherah. So the Holy Spirit replaced Asherah, the great mother. And so when the serpent gave them the knowledge of good and evil, it's a little bit like the Gnostics, who say we got to give the humans something, because otherwise they're really going to be taken advantage of. So it pissed off God. That's being very summary to everything I talked about in that show. Yeah, the tree of knowledge, Asherah, the tree. She was the tree of life, right? She was this. That was her archon. That was her image, was the tree of life. So maypoles, that's Asherah worship, right? Because the poles. So Chef Mike says, I know people that sit on panels daily and do the same thing. Fill the convo with so much caca that you get lost in the sauce. I could not possibly agree more. Compassionate and Callous says, suspicious squint. Yeah, Chef Mike says, with the command over big words. Yeah, it's the same thing. And 80% of the time, they sound like they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Kevin says, are you familiar with the Anunnaki story? Intimately. I know all about the Anunnaki. And I have talked about Mesopotamia and the Anunnaki on this channel, but I haven't really gone deep into the Anunnaki. We may have to do that sometime. Okay, so the white Christian nationalist dispensationalists and their counterparts, the Zionist Jews, are heading for global world domination. So for the rest of us, we need to stay wary. We need to stay, it's scary. It's scary for a lot of us, right? We got to stay prepared. At the very least, we need to understand it really seems like we're in the upside down. Like what's up is down, what's left is right. Yin yang is completely backwards. You know what I mean? Like what's good is bad, what's bad is good. Christians are violent, you know, and threatening to kill people and stone people to death and do public executions. And like, it's all backwards. Okay. So, but know this, everything moves in cycles. It always has. In space-time, on Earth, for the totality of Earth, everything moves in cycles. Okay. Each end is a starting point, right? Every time something ends, something new begins. Each end is a starting point. And while there may be more pain and more anguish and angst to come, I don't know, I believe in humanity. I believe in us. Maybe not all people, but definitely all humans. Okay? We, the humans, are the greater power that I believe in. Together, we are God and godlike, and we operate God's will, the humans. Okay? I'm not waiting for people to have an epiphany to find their humanity, especially because many of these people gave up their humanity long ago. Maybe they never had it, but they probably gave it up a long time ago. They're not acting humane. They gave up their humanity. I don't believe in those people at all. I believe in those who have kept their humanity through all of these troubled times, because it's always been easier to not retain your humanity. That's always been the easier path. I believe in those humans that kept their humanity. I believe in us, and I believe that we will act when the time comes. All right, thank you guys for coming. Kevin says kind of metamorphosis, yeah, and Compassionate and Callous says facts. So I appreciate you guys being here. That's what I've got for tonight. We're just under an hour. I hope you guys can be here this coming Sunday. I'm going to get off of politics and religion for just one show, because, you know, one of my interests is neurodivergence. I myself am neurodivergent. I have kids who are neurodivergent. So this next Sunday, we're going to have a show called What Flavor of Autism Did You Get? We're going to show some videos. We're going to talk about neurodivergence. We may even get into the theory that autism, which now they call it high functioning autism, used to call it Asperger's, but how that may be part of the evolution of humanity. So we'll probably get into that theory, but a lot of it's just going to be fun and talking about our quirks.
So hopefully you can be there next Sunday. The Sunday after that, we're going to get right back into politics and the BS that's going on. So we might as well have a fun show in the middle. Chef Mike says, I really appreciate your work. Thank you so much, Chef Mike. Peace to you as well, Adric. And I'm going to show you guys a picture of my dog.
Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together.